Right. One of your CodeHS assignments uh, uses static variables in the class, and so I wanted to show you an example of like how to do that. Um, so right now we have a rectangle class, and you should be super familiar with what this does. It has width and length. Okay, those are non-static variables. They belong to an individual rectangle. Okay. Um, so that's what non-static variables are like. Like if we had a human class, you might have hair color. Okay, you might have nose size. Something like that that belongs to an individual human. Um, what static variables are in a class is it's something that belongs to the entire class, not an instance of that class. So something, if you had the human class, it's something that belongs to humanity, not um, a human. Okay, so what I've done is I've redone our class a little bit here, um, adding in some static variables, stuff that belongs to the class itself. So let's start with this one. So private static int num rectangles. Now you'll notice something that's weird is I've gone ahead and given it a value because I'm not waiting on the constructor to give it a value, because this value belongs to the entire class. So when I do a constructor, it's not its job to give it a value because it belongs to the class, not a specific object. So num rectangles, this is going to hold how many rectangles are currently in my class. All right. Um, so whenever I make a new rectangle, I've gone ahead and added the I've said num rectangles plus plus. So it increases the number of rectangles. Something else you can do, and this is what shows up in your CodeHS lesson, is you can have a list that holds a bunch of objects. So I've made an array list called rectangles that holds the rectangles that I make in this class. Again, since it's um, since it's static, I have to go ahead and give it a value here. So I give it a value, and then as I create more, look at what happens in the constructor. I went ahead and said rectangles.add this. So the thing that I'm constructing, okay, that's the this, I'm going to go ahead and add that to my array list. Okay. Now I want you to notice if you want to do getters for these variables, um, it looks pretty much the same as a normal getter, except what do you notice here? It's a static method because we're not acting on an object to get it. We're just saying, hey, this just belongs to the class. Okay. And remember, when you call these non-static or these static methods, you call the class dot, okay, instead of calling the object dot. Okay. I also made another method called remove rectangle. Let's say I want to remove one of these rectangles that I've created. Well, I'm going to decrease the number of rectangles, and I'm going to remove the rectangle that I'm acting on. Okay, so num rectangles and rectangles, these are both things that belong to the class, not an instance of that class, not an object of that class. Okay, this comes up even less, but I'm going to show you it anyway, just because. I don't know if you remember, but in the math class, we had something math.pi. And math.pi was just a variable that holds the value of pi. And you can't change the value of pi or anything, but the math class holds this constant. Well, you can make your own constants by doing public static final. You'll notice these variables are public. Okay, we can access them, but we don't worry about anyone accessing them because they can't change them, because we went ahead and said they're final. So what I've done is I've created a variable for the golden ratio, phi. Okay, so you're like, I don't feel like looking that up. And so later on, you would just call rectangle.phi. Constants in Java, we usually do all capital letters, okay? But if you call rectangle.phi, it basically spits this out. Oops, forgot. Need to say what it is. It's a double, okay? Here, I've made a special rectangle that has a name, which I should tell you what it is. So this rectangle is called unit square. It's a rectangle of width 1, length 1. Okay, oops, forgot to change that. Now, anytime I want a unit square, I don't have to make a new one. I can just call unit square, and it's this constant rectangle that I've already made that I can just use anytime that I want. So up here, these are non-static variables. They belong to the object. These are static variables. They belong to the class. And these bottom ones are final variables. Okay, they're basically constants that you can't change. All right, I hope that clears things up. If not, shoot me an email, Google Hangouts, something, and I would love to help you out. Thanks.